Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and this part of the show is dedicated to Mr. B, who is also Nick Burafedo at Link2, my sponsor, who hates it when I adjust my volumes at the beginning of the show. I had to do it. I hit the record button and I forgot to do it. That one's for you, Nick. Now, wanted to show everybody, this was from Altcoin Daily this morning. They are now starting the promotion of Bitcoin Las Vegas 2025. It's going to be May 27th to May 29th. And then on May 30th, for the next 2 days after that's over, is when you're going to have XRP Las Vegas. Here's the list of some of the people that are coming to the Bitcoin conference. It's going to be at the Venetian, whereas the XRP Las Vegas is going to be at the MGM Grand. So, but I wanted to make the point that now that Bitcoin Las Vegas is starting their promotion, and they'll be doing it. These conferences are in May, so they'll be doing it. But now that that's in motion, a couple of things are going to happen. The tickets are going to begin to sell out, and the rooms are going to begin to sell out. So the Venetian and the MGM Grand, those two hotels are going to be packed. So just wanted to let you know, you can go to xrplasvegas.com and you can get your tickets. I talked to Brad Combs this morning, and he said we are right at last year's record already, and we haven't even gone into 2025 yet. The XRP Las Vegas is going to be massive, thousands. Okay, here the market remains, it's kind of remained flat, and I kind of expect it to do so here in the lead into 2025 at this point. This was going around this morning. I don't know who put it out originally, but I saw it like in a reply. Check this out. This is December 29th today. Judging crypto's true value. Few cryptocurrencies had more hanging on the U.S. presidential election than XRP, a coin issued by a company called Ripple Labs. Actually, it was issued by OpenCoin. With a market capitalization of 101 billion pounds, XRP's fortune largely depended on the outcome of the legal dogfight with the U.S. SEC. Wall Street watchdog argues that Ripple broke securities laws when it issued XRP without regulatory approval. In March, it demanded $2 billion in penalties from Ripple. In August, Judge Torres imposed a $125 million fine, while technically being about whether or not XRP should be treated as securities. Crypto bulls think the row stems from the SEC's tough stance on crypto industry under Gary Gensler as chairman. Donald Trump is to replace him with crypto-friendly Paul Atkins. XRP's value quadrupled after Trump's election, making it the fourth biggest crypto. And we know Trump has $5 million of XRP because that's what Ripple donated to him. Check this out. This is a discussion by head of digital assets at SBI.
That point, it's going to be about the kinds of financial services that DeFi makes available to TradFi. So for example, if I'm talking about an asset, let's say a tokenized real world asset that I purchased from HSBC, if in the DeFi world you provide a secondary service to me, whether it's a secondary market, like a digital exchange, whether it's, say, collateralization as a service, whether it's a liquidity pool, suddenly that token becomes much more valuable to me because it's not just representing the real world asset that HSBC is underwriting, but now that token has liquidity and velocity that, again, given the network effect, given the other DeFi services that are available to me that I can use that token for, increases the value of that token.
Yeah, that's kind of the sentiment that I have about all this.
Yeah. I mean, if we, to this point as was just mentioned, it's kind of already happening. If you think of as Bitcoin as an asset that is exogenous to Ethereum, for example, and all the different wrapped versions that are made available by the wrapped BTC DAO or Coinbase BTC or whatever, so many other tokenized versions of BTC on chain. It's kind of similar, right? I mean, there is the difference that the original asset is also decentralized, so it comes with much smaller regulatory footprint, so it's much easier to handle. But it's also true to that point that by tokenizing Bitcoin on Ethereum, for example, you increase its velocity because then you can use it in DeFi. You can make it more liquid on chain. You can use it in the smart contracts, which is something that you cannot do natively on the Bitcoin network. So, if we think about this in the same shape and form as it could be another RWA asset, I think there are a lot of similarities in there.
Interesting stuff. And then Mr. Mann says prophecy fulfilled. This is Chris Larson. I don't think that's not Navin Gupta. I don't know what he's talking about there. Oh, maybe he's got two clips. Okay, yeah, that's what it is. Chris Larson and Navin Gupta. He's talking about prophecy, XRP prophecy fulfilled.
Am I right in thinking the strategy is then to get kind of a nationwide deployment of Ripple? And if so, how is that going to work? What's the strategy?
Yeah, so the strategy really is now first try to get a bank in each of the key regions of the world. Because if you can connect one bank on ACH in the US to one bank on SEPA in Europe, you have effectively connected all of the banks on those two networks. So you really get a multiplier effect. Now we have this Fedor out of Germany and SEPA, and we have now these two US banks on ACH. Now we got to work on China, we got to work in South America, India, and really continue to spread it and get to some of the bank networks. So definitely getting banks as gateways to bring currencies onto the platform is very important. And then along with that, bringing market makers to make markets between those currencies, cross currencies. We've already been pretty successful there. We have about 7 institutional market makers already. Now it's really kind of filling it up with banks.
Timeline, Naveen. What are you thinking? I mean, at what point we will see that, at least in the payment space, the crypto becomes the infrastructure for movement of value, or at least for the majority of the value transfer across the world? Are we talking 5 years, 10 years, or another 50 years?
Yeah, I think to my mind, 3 years, right? And it's the combination of two things. So it's a combination of players like us, who are laying the infrastructure, laying the pipe, the sewage, the plumbing and everything else. And then second, rise of stablecoins, right? Because as the rise of stablecoin happens, then you have this, and these could be government issued stablecoins as well. Then you have something issued by the government where the institutions are not worried about risk. I mean, people are essentially saying, hey, you know what, I'm comfortable with this way, right? And then you're suddenly able to see that government backed, it could be US dollar, it could be AD, it could be a number of other things, to essentially be used in a big way. So I think these two will cause a dramatic change. And in my mind, it's just 3 years away, not larger than that, because I also see it as a very big monkey see, monkey do market, right? I mean, think about it. A country A issues a stable coin. That works brilliantly well. Bhavan will essentially say, I'll use this. So the local currency issuer says, I need to match this up very, very quickly. Otherwise, my customer, Bhavan, will essentially migrate to that stable coin that essentially he will use.
I mean, on that stable coin side, and that brings us to CBD.
Okay, I was piddling around this morning, and I was sitting here thinking, we talk about EthGate a lot, and we talk about whether digital assets are securities or not, and that's kind of been the whole issue. But one thing that's got to be moved out of the way, if you think about it, ever since we uncovered EthGate, the entire crypto space not only has been attacked, but it's been living under this lie of this structure that was created from the Bill Hinman speech. These two guys, Lowell Ness was Perkins Coie, and he was A16Z's attorney, and then Brad Burnham was Union Square Ventures. They were both in the room with Bill Hinman, and they actually gave him a presentation. This is them talking about it, but they're also, what they're talking about in this clip, I'm not going to play the whole clip because it's long, but you can go and watch it at my X profile. But what they're basically laying out is, here's the reasons why why a digital asset cannot be considered a security. If it is, this is how it gets limited, and so it wouldn't work. They all knew that when they went in that room. They only put Ethereum in that safe harbor document that Lowell Ness wrote and sent to them. So these guys knew, they had to know, that regulatory capture would happen to all the, not just regulatory capture, but it would slam the door on everything except for Bitcoin and Ethereum and tokens built on Ethereum. That's why we had to suffer through nothing but ERC20 tokens being on Coinbase for all these years. It was by design. They were like, we don't need anything. That's what they were thinking. Why do we need anything other than Bitcoin and Ethereum if you can build all these tokens on Ethereum? So we'll slam the door on the rest of this stuff, then we'll start suing them one by one and capture them regulatorily like they did Ripple. These guys have never had to explain why they only included Ethereum in that thing. Nobody's ever put a microphone in their face. They deserve it. They need to have it put in their face. Here's what else needs to happen. Because remember, Bill Hinton lied in his deposition. He said that his speech was his personal opinion. He lied, and then the SEC itself went into court and lied for about a year and made Ripple spend millions of dollars to disprove the lie. And it didn't get disproven until all the Freedom of Information Act started coming out. Remember this? This is Charles Gasparino when he was laying out the SEC's position way back January 19th, 2022. Ripple is looking to show the Hinman speech indicated SEC bias in favor of competitors such as Ethereum. Hinman has denied and states those comments were his own opinion, not official SEC position. He lied. SEC lied. And how do we know it? We know he lied from a lot of different angles, but here's one reason. Here's Lowell Ness himself.
My playbook these days, in fact, honestly, ever since I sat across from Bill Hinman and he sort of said, you know, we're gonna accept your proposal to give some guidance here, I stopped giving guidance. I said, let's be consistent with the SEC's hand wave approach here, because that's who matters. You know, when you get into court, like, the court's going to give deference to the regulator. Nobody wants to. I mean, I get that. I really do. And my heart is in it. I love the academic arguments about whether or not something should be a security. But I just think, honestly, to be pragmatic here, you should just treat it like security and be done with it and move on, because we all know how to do that. And so that's, to me, the path of least resistance right now until.
They knew what was going to happen. They knew that once he gave that speech, as long as he mentioned Bitcoin and Ethereum, the door would be slammed on everything else. They knew it. So why else would he want everybody to think it was his personal opinion? That way, he could, if it was his personal opinion, then they could say, oh, no, that's not what we were doing at all. But if it's not his personal opinion, which it was not, then it shows they were trying to slam the door on everything else. It's important. Here's Cowboy Crypto. He's pointing out Aaron Kaplan, CEO of Prometheum, which Galaxy Research said they think the SEC is going to now investigate Prometheum. Describes how they went about creating the company entirely based off the Dow report Bill Hinman gave. Remember, the first thing Bill Hinman did towards crypto is the Dow report, which said basically, yeah, that's a security, but we're not going to do anything. So it was kind of like the prerequisite to the Bill Hinman speech, which got everything Ethereum through the door and didn't do anything to them for the ICO. He says, remember that Kaplan's daddy is a highly regarded securities lawyer that has worked closely with the SEC and other regulatory agencies throughout his career. Even Prometheum's CCO, Joseph Zangri, is an ex-SEC. They knew their way through the revolving doors.
So way back in 2013, when Bitcoin was just gaining popularity, we examined it as, I'm a securities attorney by trade, and I examined it as a financial instrument. And the thought process is that there needed to be frameworks to allow for this asset class, the industry, to grow. I mean, this is Bitcoin. It's right at the time of, it's before the Ethereum ICO. Mm-hmm. And essentially the thought process was as well, if we're able to trade Bitcoin through an ATS at a brokerage account and give the investor protections and the consumer protections of the federal securities laws, that it would be a way forward that made a lot of sense. So in April 2014, we submitted our first no action letter to the SEC, basically asking them to not take action against us should we trade Bitcoin on an ATS in a brokerage account. The time we were a little bedbug, but then I continued to focus my practice as a securities attorney on the application of distributed ledger technology to the securities industry and really the related regulatory issues. And when the Dow report, or let me take a step back, but it was always our thesis that essentially the federal securities laws provided a great framework to regulate the intermediaries, the trading, the custody activity related to Bitcoin and then digital assets. And then when the Dow report came out in July 2017, which was really the first time that the SEC gave an indication that the federal securities laws applied to digital assets, that was the catalyst we needed to start the company. I think we started the company a couple months thereafter. And the goal of the company was to build a public market and custodial infrastructure under the federal securities laws for digital assets. And what that entails is a trading venue where you could publicly trade digital assets and a custodial venue where basically you could custody your assets, all with the consumer and investor protections of the federal securities.
Okay, I wanted to show you this tweet by Smoke. He's talking about how RLUSD will quickly surpass USDT and USDC. Here he says RLC will rival Tether's USD and Circle's USDC. Over here it says heavy competition as the market's up. Heat up, investors potentially more value incentives. RLUSD chances might revolve around offering attractive returns to users. However, USDC does differ in one crucial aspect from RLUSD in that Circle does not offer its own blockchain. By being able to offer both the rails, its XRPL blockchain, and the token that can move along these rails, RLUSD, for cross-border payment companies, Ripple is positioned to be able to provide a complete solution rather than needing to partner with the other providers such as Circle's Ripple partnership to supply MoneyGram. The other advantage is what Brad Garlinghouse keeps bringing up is whereas USDC is backed by treasuries and cash equivalents and all that, so will RLUSD, but it will also have the backing of XRP itself, the XRP holdings themselves that are sitting in Ripple's escrow, is the way he's said it. Okay, in DAIXRP.com, we're going to talk about what everybody's saying about crypto and XRP prices going into 2025, and I'm going to tell you the first thing I think is going to happen that's going to set it off for XRP. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Let's go find out what I think is going to set it off. Here we go.